welcome. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Unlock Higher Education monthly speaking series. Usually, I know that this is hosted by Judith the Grown, but right now she is with the Ladies of Hope Ministry working in a facility, and she was held back. But like I was mentioning before, I hope she comes in and saves me before I do this so much. I just want to take a moment to speak. We've had an amazing summer of technology, and we're not stopping yet because I know I love that. We've had inside coders from the Center for Effective Public Policy and Dr. Stephanie Fleming from Justin Beacon Solutions. And today we will be having Seth. Seth is the co-founder of STEM Ventures. But before we start that, since we have a couple people and I really want everybody to get to know each other, can I talk some of you guys into introducing yourself, Marianne, Aaron, Jean, to introducing yourself to Seth?
Sure. Hi, I'm Marianne Gibson. I live in Chicago, but I'm traveling this week in St. Louis, and I am really interested in the topic today of technology and AI, and I've been studying it as well as finishing a degree in criminal justice, and I'm excited. Mickey's been doing a phenomenal job behind, as he says, behind the scenes and getting us all up to speed on social and AI. And I'm super interested in. I'm working with a couple of women that are starting their own businesses, and I'm trying to help them automate and into the marketing and all of the other aspects of growing a business with some of the newest technology. So looking forward to today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for introducing yourself. I was born in St. Louis, so.
Oh, terrific. We'll have to connect.
Perfect. Gene, do you want to introduce yourself, sir? I actually secretly did I put together the email between the two of you introducing each other yet, or is that on my list of things to do?
I think it's pending. It's coming.
My apologies. This is the perfect chance, though, Gene, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Gene Laughlin. I'm the Executive Director of the North Carolina Prison Education Consortium, and I work out of Asheville, North Carolina.
Very cool. And you got a cool background.
I'm up a creek without a paddle.
I'm Tamara Mariotti. I'm from the SUNY system, which has 64 campuses, and we have about 24 that have higher ed and prison programs. But I work more on the side of disability and trying to work within our programs to support anyone who has a disability as well within those higher ed programs.
Very cool. Very good work.
Am I the last one, Mickey?
You are the last one, but never the least. You are my
Never.
favorite. Well, I don't want to say
Never the
favorite
least.
because I've told all of them off to the sides. Please don't be catching me. Do you want to introduce yourself, Dr. Aaron?
Sure. So I am Aaron Corbett, co-founder and CEO of Second Chance Educational Alliance, co-founder and member of the Jami Sisterhood executive team, consultant to the stars, edited a book called The Bloomsbury Handbook of Prison Education, which is out now in paperback. The follow-up, which Mickey has a chapter in, where he tried very hard to write about Jean Valjean. That book is coming out March 18th, 2027, so you may place your pre-orders. I also have another text that is on its way out called Black Women in the Carceral State. Tell Them We Are Not Monsters. That should be out towards the end of the year. And I'm writing a proposal to write a people's history of higher ed and prison from the 1700s to the present.
Wow.
Dr. Aaron definitely writes, and I am so glad she invited me and I was able to participate, where I will be discussing the importance of STEM education in prison settings, which is super duper important when you think about it, because today you're here, Seth, and as we're all going to hear Seth speak, Seth is the COO and co-founder of STEM Ventures, a workforce and education technology company helping students build modern skills, earn credentials, and access meaningful opportunities. A BYU graduate, Seth co-founded Simply Coding in 2013 to bridge the gap between education and workforce needs through practical, career-focused technology instruction. Under Seth's leadership, the company has reached more than 100,000 students, and he now serves learners across K through 12 schools, job corps centers, and correctional facilities and workforce program. He has led curriculum development, certification alignment, AI-assisted strategy, and secure technological deployments for disconnected and high-needs environments. Seth has helped lead SimVenture's offline AI-assisted development pilot with the Colorado Department of Corrections and continues to support programs in Arizona Corrections and Job Corps. His work focuses on helping people reach real technical skills, preserve momentum, and continue the forward progress. And there is no one else that would continue our summer of technological advance with Unlock Higher Education better than Seth can. But I'll let you discuss that and take that from here. Thank you so much for appearing, Seth.
Thank you, Mickey. I sure appreciate that and that intro and all of you introducing yourself. I just love being in a room where there's momentum, where there's people that are wanting to share their experiences, share their knowledge, and I sure appreciate it. Hopefully I can add something of value. Like I said, my name's Seth. The last name's pronounced Iorg. That's the hardest part to figure out of all this, how to pronounce my last name. But yeah, the I silent, G like a J. So Iorg, I was born in St. Louis. I now live in Pensacola, Florida. My favorite part of Florida. I'm in the Panhandle, like half hour from Alabama. If I go north or east or west, I mean, if I go north or west, I hit Alabama in no time. But I love it here. I have 6 kids from 18 down to 4. I got a family, trying to take care of them, and it's awesome. I enjoy it. So to give you a little background of how I got here, because I didn't start Simply Coding being the original company to say I know about corrections, I want to go into corrections. I started Simply Coding because I tried to go to dental school and I didn't make it. And I was just an okay student, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I apply for dental school, I don't get in. So I go and get this job with this startup. I'm in Provo, Utah right now. We mentioned I graduated from BYU. So I'm in Utah, I find a job with this startup and they put me next to this programmer and I'm watching what he does like every day. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm bugging him. And finally, I'm like, hey, give me a project. Let me see. I've never seen anything like this. My world was baseball and basketball, and that took all my hours. And for the first time, I'm sitting in this startup and they're like, work with this guy, test his code, see if it works. And I'm watching him code right next to me. So I say, give me a project. He says, okay, we need to take this server, we need to bind an IP to it. That took me 6 hours to figure out, but I loved every second of it. It wasn't coding, it was more server administration. That process should take about 12 seconds. But I loved reading about it, and that's where I got into coding. And so he and I worked together, and he'd give me projects. And so I learned how to code kind of in that environment. It was called Blue Sky. Then I started my own company, Infinity Media, where we built marketing materials for companies, and we started working with different corporations to manage their email lists and to help them that way. So that was the beginning of my computer programming. And then I had a buddy say, hey, we would have sure loved this in middle school. How about we start an after school program? And that's where Simply Coding started. It was just a hobby after school program at American Fork, Utah. We bought a little retail location. Kids came in, and I just loved that middle school age group, seeing these 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds come in and we're teaching them how to code. We had some schools take interest in us. We started writing curriculum for schools, and I wanted to make Simply Coding my full-time focus. And so we started just figuring out where it would fit. We tried retail. We did some stuff with Costco. We have some products with Costco. We did summer camps. We worked with colleges running their summer camps. We got into more schools, but I couldn't figure out what Simply Coding was. We were just trying to find places to sell the product. And then I was contacted by MTC Trains, and they are a company that manages both Job Corps and correctional facilities. They're out of Texas and Bountiful, Utah. And they invited me to submit for an RFP, and then COVID hit. And so we didn't get to. Then they called me up after COVID and said, hey, we're putting out an RFP. Would you like to submit for it? And so we submitted. to be able to be the contractor to teach coding inside of a correctional facility, and we were awarded that contract. And this was 3 years ago. And so we started teaching in Gadsden, Florida, with an awesome female facility, and I loved it. And it's about 2.5 hours from my house, so I get to go there in person. I'm going there this Friday. They have graduation, and so I'll be there in person again with graduation. I try and go about every 6 weeks to be there in person. We teach online. And that's kind of where that's where, not kind of, that's where I was introduced to correctional facility and technologies, and got to learn the security end, the deployment end, the contract end. Hey, here is what we want you to teach. So we teach a language called React. And during all this time, AI is becoming more and more of a presence. And there's a million different ways we could talk about all of these different topics I've already hit on. I want to leave time for questions. I like when people have questions. I want to make sure this is useful and not, I'm okay if I get interrupted. But I want to tell you about this little thought process that it took me through in this journey. And so as I was working with these wonderful ladies in Gadsden, we saw all the limitations and all the obstacles that we would need to overcome to give them a real education. I looked at Persevere and the Last Mile and how they ran things, and what maybe fits more with my personality and with my background and how I want to run things. And so I kept pursuing something that I wanted to run. And I'll explain that in this way. When an RFP comes out, you have to fulfill that RFP. And so we're pigeonholed into what this contract says. And so we're still teaching in Gadsden. We've been able to get a couple of the individuals jobs. We weren't really good on selectivity, and so actually some of them are still incarcerated for another 3-4 years. The majority of who we've taught is. We have found some unbelievably skilled ladies. We have 3 of them that are our peer mentors right now that run it with me, and they are fantastic. They are still a few years away from release. The next contract we got was in Arizona. And in Arizona, again, they said, here is what you're going to teach, and here's the classroom you're going to teach it in. And so we do teach there, and we're fulfilling that contract. But I wasn't able to do the way I wanted to do it. And I want to talk about what that vision was for me and why this Colorado pilot that we just finished was so valuable to us, because we finally got to set the terms of how we wanted to do it, and worked with a wonderful staff and wonderful people at CDOC on being able to make that come to light. So the biggest challenges I want to talk about is continuity and momentum. That's the first challenge. In Gadsden, Florida, they go to class for 2.5 hours. They leave the computer lab, and that's it. Their learning has stopped for that day. Their ability to practice has stopped for that day, and their ability to engage on the ideas they're having. And so this momentum stops. And you know how correction facilities, we don't always start on time. We don't always have a day where they're coming into class because of things that happen. And so we're always fighting this momentum. Attention is fragmented and focus disappears. And that's the other challenge that I wanted to really tap into. When attention is fragmented, when you're coming in with other things happening, I see this more in Job Corps, where the students have their phones, where I ask them to open up a new tab and they're advertised to immediately, hey, let's go to GitHub. And they're opening up a tab to get to GitHub, and they're getting advertised to, and they can get off track. And this plays a major role in our Job Corps facilities where we teach. And then the other part being technology evolves. What are we teaching today, and what does that look like when they're upon release? What are the principles that we want them to gather so that they can be a strong, skilled tech person when they get released? And so those are the 3 that I really wanted to hit on. Now, our mission at Sim Ventures, and just to give you the clarity of what those are, Simply Coding is still our K-12. We live in K-12. We have international contracts. We have national contracts. Simply Coding is our K-12. Sim Ventures is our career pathway for our Job Corps and our incarcerated individuals, and anywhere else that it might lead us. And so we have a vision where every person can keep moving forward regardless of circumstance, transition, or environment. And then a mission to help individual build modern skills, earn credentials, and access meaningful opportunities. And so this is what Sim Ventures wants to do. And so I was able to sit down with Colorado Department of Corrections. So that set the table for where I'm coming from and why this project was so meaningful to us. And so I sat down with Lee Burrow. She's the director of programs over in Colorado, and I just have loved working with her. And I said, Lee, here's what I would love to do and have an opportunity to prove that I think it's the best method to teach, to address all these obstacles. And I said, number one, I need the students to have 24/7 access. And number two, they can't be relying on me as the teacher. The learning has to be on them. They have to feel that I am in charge of my learning. I don't want them sitting in a classroom looking at a TV and saying, teacher, teach me. I want them to say, here is what I've done. Here is what I've tried. Guide me. And so I wanted those two things. And then I needed modern skills. I needed them to know that I was teaching them what is relevant once they are out of release. And so here is how we decided to do that. I have a buddy who's really good friends with Apple, and he's done a lot of projects with Apple. And I called him up and I said, hey, I need iPads, and we need to manage them through a process called MDM. And I want to take them into correctional facilities. Currently, he works in football stadiums, and he runs all of their suites, all their technology for the suites. He runs high-end golf resorts, and their technology is everywhere in the golf resorts. And as soon as you check into the hotel, you're given this iPad, and it is your companion the whole time. You do everything with it. It's awesome. And they get all this data. But I told him, I don't want to take you into corrections because I know what your software can do. And so I went to Lee Burrows and said, here's my plan. These inmates are going to get iPads, and they're going to be able to take them to their room, and I need to be able to update them. So I need a little bit of internet. She says, there's no way you're getting internet if that's your plan. And I said, well, that's my plan. All right, let's figure it out without internet. And so we decided to do this an offline, off-network solution. And I'm so glad we did. I fought this for a while, but it needed to be offline. And so we came to terms, and we were able to do this project where the inmates got 15 iPads. I preloaded them with everything that they would need it for the course, and we would meet twice a week, Monday and Thursday. And on Monday, I would set goals with them, tell them what they need to learn, talk about all the resources, where they should be in the course, and then we let them go. And then Thursday, they check back in with me and say, here's what we've done, here's how we're doing, here's where we need help. And this was the process. Now, we tried to do it for 6 months. We got 5.5 months out of it, just because it started late and it runs into other things. But here is what happened along the way. When we gave them the iPads, they got into the curriculum, and they were spending about 15 hours a week just on their iPads. We have all the data tracked. And 15 hours a week outside of their normal activity on the iPads. Now, there was still one problem that I was not addressing, and that is we live in a world with AI, and we live in a world where you need modern technology. We're teaching them Swift, mobile app development, just so you have some context of the certification they're getting is from Certiport, and it is their mobile development with Swift certification. That's Apple's partner that they prefer for you to do certifications through. But they still were on a little iPad. This is it right here. This is the iPad. Here's the case. There's the keyboard, connects, disconnects. And that was their device. Now, we weren't addressing they're going to need the modern tools. And so I went back to Lee and I said, Lee, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a really, really high-end Mac Studio, and I'm going to put it into a secure place in the facility, and I'm going to pre-install it with every modern tool they could ever use. And so we built this simulation of the internet, a simulation of the environment that they would use on the outside right here on this little Mac Studio. And what I mean by that is they had a replica of a database called Postgres. They had a replica of APIs called Fast API. They had a replica of a server to run that on, Express. They had a replica of authentication called JWT, so they could do logins and logouts and bcrypt. They had a replica of source control, which was Git-T, Gitea, which is open source. And so that replicates GitHub. They had a replica of what AWS would do with hosting and how to basically become an architect and go end to end. Now that all those tools were great, but they needed experience and comfort in one more thing, and that was AI. Now, the beauty of having your own closed network server is you have this opportunity to download offline AI models. And so we tested 3 of them out. We had the Qwen 14B. So that's QWEN, the Qwen 14B model. 14 is 14 billion points of data to choose from. That was their planner. That's the one they would talk to and develop a plan with. And then they had a coding one called Qwen 3.0 Coder Next, and that is a model that really understands computer programming. Now, because these models are offline, you get 2 things out of them. One, there is no pay to play. There is no running out of tokens. There is no I'm out of questions or I need to pay more money. Everything was completely free once it was downloaded. And 2, we control the whole AI environment as far as its guardrails and its boundaries. It can't go out and search the internet and come up with things that you don't want them to see. It can't search the internet and hallucinate and say, oh, I found something and let me tell you about it. It has a set of resources that we gave it. It had a set of controls that we gave it, and it doesn't really have the opportunity to break out of that. And these models are extremely well at what we would call full stack development, front end development. And so they had access to those, as well as that coder, the Qwen Coder Next model. It could see all of their files and be able to help them debug and edit. That was important because as I come in and talk to them, I could only take them as deep as my knowledge goes and as deep as my time is available. They need something that allows them to go as deep as they want to with questions and is always available to them. And they had that. And so we saw our hours go from 15 hours a week on average, this is over 15 people, to 19 and a half hours per week once we introduced the server. And so we increased by about 19, 20% of engagement on the server. Now, I'm telling you all of this, there were bugs along the way. There were things we had to fix. There were pivots we had to do. And those are details for another conversation. It wasn't, here's the server and everything was smooth. No, this was reality. And we fixed them all and it works. And I loved it. But I don't want to paint this picture that, hey, here's this and it worked. No, it's not some fairy tale thing. There were real things we had to overcome. And I am so appreciative of the staff at Skyline where we did this model. And so they were able to engage in this manner, and many of them over the course of 5.5 months had well over 400 hours of total time spent building. Now, 2 weeks ago, I got to do their graduation, and I want to share my screen here, and I want to show you a little bit of what that looked like and that experience there. So I'm pulling up my screen share. All right, this is our website, simventures.org. What you're seeing in the background of these pictures is this is our facility in Florida. This is Gadsden. This is one of the graduating class. This is some of the interviews. So if you see any of the female, this is here are the iPads. Here is their classroom. This was graduation. I'm looking at these pictures that are just flowing through. Here's what it looks like working on a server. So hopefully those are cycling fast, but those are some of the pictures there. So let me show you here. These are our guys. This was our crew. And so this is the director of programs here. This is Lee Burrows that she came in to see the graduation. These were our participants. You can see the iPads that are here. The servers in a room just behind this wall. So we did the presentation in here so they could attach to the server and present on this screen. These are the certifications from Certiport that they passed. And I want to show you now one of the programs. So this is what we taught them. This is Swift UI code. I'm going to run this simulation. This is right out of Xcode. So this is the one in the back in the glasses, my friend there. This is his project that I want to just show you and load up, just to give you an idea of them coming from never having programmed in their life to here is something that they built end to end. And so this is a simulator. And once they get released, I'll be able to put it on the App Store for them. And then they have a live app on the App Store as they continue to build, and they have something that they can point to that gets you. So this is what he created. Welcome to the 7 Circles. Your journey to holistic well-being starts here. This is a vision that he had, and each of them did an app that is so unique towards their personality. And if I had time, I'd show you all of them. I'm still gathering them all so that they can be displayed. And so as you click on it, he has read through this book about the 7 circles and all of these different things that that we need to kind of feel at peace. And so he wanted to provide resources in all of these different areas. And so if you are looking for a community, you click on community, it talks to you a little bit about it. And if you click on this resources near you, hoping it works on my phone and on my iPad. I wonder if it'll work on my computer, but this pulls up and gets my location, and it shows you different communities that are around you. And this all functioned perfectly. I realized I'd have to open up my iPad that has the location turned on to be able to do that. So, but this is an example of what they created. Now, this was the front end. Everything you see is done completely by them. The back end, they had AI assistants to help them out. This is code that he wrote, that he learned how to write, that he did all with each other, really. They all kind of helped each other out, and it was awesome. So from this pilot program, here's kind of what SimVentures has gathered from this data and what we believe is a very good way forward. One, because of the advancements of AI, we can build a simulation of any environment out there that they would need to learn in the modern world without risking security or compromising any of the policies in the correction facility, and bring that to them. This is my server right here. This is the exact, when I say we brought a server in, this is what it looks like. I have one in my office, the exact replica that's inside of this facility, and I swap them out when I go out there, and I bring theirs back and update it, and then I put in the new one, and they have all the updated resources. This was done for computer programming. That's our background. This could be done for science, math, landscaping, anything where they would have an AI agent that begins to understand their questioning and how they learn, that could follow them through and allow them to go as deep as they want to inside of a specific topic, and be able to learn while they learn how to teach them and how to guide them through it. We are way beyond in 2026 teaching from books and PDFs and having them have to scan and find things and answer questions. I think technology is such where we can really help these individuals not just become comfortable with AI, but become comfortable with learning and being comfortable with asking questions and seeing how output is brought towards them. And so SimVentures, what we are working towards is a partnership with Apple, which we have now showed them this and done the case study and have had some very good conversations, and they are ongoing to be able to provide an infrastructure that maybe corrections hasn't had in the past. Now, we gave them an iPad. This is a minimum security facility. They allowed them to have this iPad 24/7. I am not under the impression that this is common across all correctional facilities. I understand the conversations that would need to happen, but everyone does have Chromebooks. Everyone does have other devices that would work just as well to be able to connect to and be able to have this environment that's meant for their skill set while giving them a modern experience of what that would look like. So that's where we're at today with SimVentures. We are in the process of putting these boxes in Florida and in Arizona now after this to show them what they can do. We are in conversations, like I said, with Apple and others to try and wrap our mind around how can we help individuals not lose momentum as they're going through and gaining the educations that they need. So that's the bulk of my presentation. There's lots of things that I can shoot off and explain and talk about. I wanted to pause for just a little bit and see if there were questions and this. Yes, I see a hand raised.
Hi, this is
Mary.
this is Marianne. Hey, so this is mind blowing. How you took the obstacle of or the excuse, whichever way you want to look at it, between internet access and security that is, always raised at the correctional level. And just to disclose, I spent a year in a federal facility in Illinois, and there was no technology. That was sort of the bottom line. Even the corrections officers that we saw during that period of COVID, I mean, they refused to turn on a computer for even administrative work. So the idea that there was technology available to anyone else was unthinkable. But so I really like how you took the challenge of that environment and then basically shoved it back at them in a way with the secure, closed network idea, which I think is brilliant. And it, I would think, I know it took a lot of work, but that model that you have would seem to address also sort of this middle school, concerns and all of the negative hype about the danger of AI and the danger of the internet. If you've sort of corralled that, it just seems like besides correctional, which I'm very passionate about and working on a number of initiatives in AI with, I mean, it just seems like a brilliant model. And I'd love to set up time to visit with you on the side. The other thing too is this is interesting for Apple because primarily the tablets have been controlled pretty much on the PC side. Apple has some superior tools, especially in the creative services area. So I would think from a expansion past coding into creative services, this is an excellent plan for. So I'm really glad that I was able to dial in today and hope to visit more with you on your venture. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Mary. I'm just going to comment real quick on that. The middle school, my kids are in middle school, and I ask them what they do some days, and they're like, we tried to figure out which cool math games was available. And that's apart from all the Instagram and everything that tries to get to them while they're learning. And so this absolutely has crossed our mind of we can make a closed network and free them of the distractions, because social media is so much more of a temptation and so much more hindering their education than AI could ever do. And so anyway, I appreciate that. And then to give you a little insight into Apple, we have met with their lady that's over corrections, and she has been tasked with finding a way to sell $1 billion worth of Apple products into corrections. Maine is their only client right now.
Yeah,
So Maine is all Apple. But they got to be smart. They can't go in there and just say, hey, we're better than Securus. This is higher quality than Viapath and Securus tablets. There's a whole infrastructure thing that we can talk about to change. And we are working on partnering potentially with one of the large data providers, Verizon, T-Mobile type thing.
Yeah.
Where we can control all the data that can come in, and the staff can have a different access than the participants in the facility, and not worry about laying cable and building these rooms with things running all over that take a year. Arizona, we were delayed 9 months just waiting for the computer lab to be built. As soon as Colorado signed off, it took me a week to order everything in, and then we started. It's just a different game. We can play a different game, but I appreciate your comments.
I wonder, do the correctional officers and the staff themselves, they probably would love to get in on the training.
Yes, and it would absolutely, we'd have something super beneficial.
Which would be a breakthrough in itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Norma, Miss Norma.
Hi, hi, Seth. First of all, thank you. This is very interesting. I have a couple of questions. So, um, so for a person who's informally incarcerated, I did DOC time, and let me tell you, my Google, how I got through my degrees was calling home to an 11-year-old grandson who's like, Nana, I got this. I'll help you look up Socrates. Oh, I know all about Socrates. So that's how I got my education, by calling home. So I want to say thank you. But so I wanted to ask you a question. First of all, because I hear you talk about DOC, and unfortunately, I got so much time, I was able to do prison and jails. But for right now, my job, I am the community engagement manager for Western Mass Corps, who we work with jails. Do you work with jails?
Um, we have not yet. Our curriculum is a 6-month minimum to say that, hey, they have a skill set that is they feel comfortable interviewing. And so that's kind of maybe been our biggest obstacle in getting into jails, is just the time that someone might be able to engage with the program. Now that's on the coding side. If there is a program that we want to make more engaging and allow them to just learn it in a more modern way, we can do that. So Sim Ventures is very good at teaching mobile app development, full stack development. That's our bread and butter. Now, on the way we teach that is with this offline server. This is the best way that we have found to teach it. This offline model can teach anything. Does that make sense? So we could absolutely, now we have some data to show that. I would love to be able to have conversations with jails to say what are some needs where this would make sense. If there are individuals that we would know would be in there for 6 months, then we have some coding curriculum, STEM curriculum ready for them.
Oh,
But I know often they're only in there 9-10 days, right?
no. Well, that was my next question I wanted to ask you about your expanding. Like, I know you talked about Arizona and Florida, and you also talked about, and as we know here, I'm up in Massachusetts, so Maine has everything. So like what's being offered in Maine is definitely not offered in Massachusetts. And just to let you know that jails, we have people spending
Years.
jails two
Really?
and a half, waiting 2.5 years. So like we just met at the State House with a couple of senators, because we were actually just talking about the length of time that people do spend in jails, and that's several years. Like you can actually 2.5, well, 2 years. And most people will say they want 2.5 years so that they can go to DOC,
Yeah.
because, I just say the canteen is a lot better up there. But well, like that's what I wanted to ask you about you expanding in Massachusetts, because this, you know, like I was listening to you, and like it's like I say again, thank you, because like I remember being educated behind the wall, and I literally, I was 57, and but I was calling home asking the questions, and we at that time we didn't even have tablets. So we didn't even have tablets. We got in with a bunch of girls, and it was like what you was thinking, what I was thinking, calling home, seeing if it's correct, and then we all rewrote our answers the same, but in a different language. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
anyways, that's how we build community behind the walls. So yeah, so I wanted to ask that question because, like I said, I work with the community colleges about bringing classes behind the walls, but I work with jails, you know.
Okay.
Mhm.
We currently have not worked with jails, but that is something that we would love to have the conversation around. And then when I say tablets, these are education devices. There is nothing on here. We track everything that happens. Apple is very good at allowing people to do that, to track everything that happens on a device. This is education. If we needed it to be able to call home, great. But I have no plans of putting Netflix on here. I have no plans of a for-profit people paying for things on this. I think that that's creating more idle time, and we're trying to get rid of idle time. And
Mhm.
so, yes, Norma, I'd love to explore that more and just see.
Can we, I will put my information in because this is, I would love for you to talk to our executive director, Nicole Hendricks. Because Western Mass Core is like, we just went independent on our own. So we are working with all the colleges, all the, facilities. Well, we work with sheriffs right now, but I've been to many, I've been up to Maine a lot, and they're so advanced in what we are. And, us trying to get us like Maine, but yeah. So I'm gonna put my information in. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I shared that about Apple because Maine is their only full-on client right now, but the lady that we work with, that's her task, to find more and be able to turn them in like Maine. And we're going to help her with that. So we can introduce you to Apple. Is there any other questions, comments, correcting me? I've been in this world a couple of years. My background is technology, networking, computer programming, working with kids. K through 12 is where I came from. And then I get to work with these great adults. We work, like we said, in Job Corps and in corrections. And this is just a model that we want to be able to bring for the second chance, and also to give people that hope before they might end up incarcerated as well. Was there another hand?
I'm not putting my hand up because there's something over it, but if I could just I'm just curious to know, I know that Apple has great accessibility on their tablets. Is that allowed on yours by any chance? Because if there was somebody who had maybe didn't even lost their glasses and things of that sort, or needed something that was a little bit more able to read it to them or something like that. So I'm just curious.
Awesome question. So what MDM means is we manage the device, and we manage it on both the hardware and the software level, which means we put on whatever apps you guys approve. And so if the DOC or whoever's in charge says, yes, we will allow these 6 apps, then that's what we put on. And so and then everything gets tracked from there. Now, the way I had to update them in Colorado is I visited on site, I gathered them up, I took them back to my hotel, I updated them, and I brought them in the next morning, and they were like, why did you take our tablets for the night? We didn't know what to do. But if there were some sort of, if we ever needed to take something off or put something on, it just has to connect for 2 minutes to a network, and then you can take it off the network, and it now has everything that you wanted on it. So the answer is yes, and it just goes through the whatever approval process you guys have.
And as an advocate, I would just suggest that maybe you start to push that out through, because people don't think about disability often, and you never know who might need that. And if it's already on there, then teachers or whatever can also work with them to just say, hey, this is available.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we get so focused in the world that's in front of us, and so I appreciate that. Yep.
Because it's harder on the if you want it turned on, it might be harder. So it's better to just give it in the beginning.
No, you're absolutely right. I go in saying, hey, here is my ideal wish list. I'm not leaving anything off. This is what I want to make the best program possible. Now let's go into negotiation and compromise. But yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Seth, can I say one thing? And you really made me happy because I heard you talking about the women program, the women jails, prisons too, because like that you got my vote on it just by you even just talking about them, because we are kind of always neglected, on a lot of things when it comes between, behind the wall and choosing either the women get it or the men get it. So thank you for that one too.
So on that, Norma, thank you. So Miss Lee Burrows, the director of programs in Colorado, she told me last week, she said, your next one you're going to expand to in Colorado is La Vista, and that is a female facility. And so she wants us in that women's. So we'll be in the women's in Florida and in Colorado. And the difference, you work with the men, you work with the women, and you get these awesome designs, and they're so artistic, and their personality is everywhere, and they just express themselves through it. And it's awesome. And you work with the men, and their databases are great. Now, this is stereotypes, but obviously there's crossover on both. But the one I showed you, that's by far the best design. If you looked at any of the others, they were very, very functional, extremely well built, and they could use a woman to design the front. Some of my good ladies in Florida, but yes.
I have a last question, Seth. Where are you seeing most of the jobs on reentry?
Great question. So we are looking at two different places. This is something I'll be very transparent with, and something that I follow very closely. When AI hit, people really thought it was going to replace development. It was not just a saying. Job searches, job postings went down 70% in technology and in the computer development world from 2022 to 2024. There was a 70% decrease in what you could actually apply for. At the end of 2025, we saw that starting to trend back up in the positive. And in 2026, we've seen all of this money flow back in. So just recently in July, for example, Ford had fired 350 of their developers, their whole development team. They hired them all back July 3rd, and you can go and find that article. And we are seeing this money flow back in, saying, you know what, AI is useful, but it's actually causing a lot of problems when it's not guided and we're not the architect. When it's the architect, we're in trouble. So we have been mostly finding jobs. And so I'll speak to Florida, because everyone in Colorado is still either at a halfway house or in the facility. Now, I have relationships that are ready to interview them both in LA and in Colorado. And I'll keep you guys posted on that data that comes out. We're very data driven. In Florida, most of them go to the halfway house, and this is the female facility in Tampa called Sunrise. And we've been able to be creative, because this was happening over while coding was not great. And so our first two that got jobs got them at restaurants, but they were able to also become their tech person over their website. And so with the certification that they have, a lot of them, we are talking about, when you get whatever job you can, show them their certifications and see if you can work on their websites. And I can send you the emails from the ladies, the correspondence. So we had to get creative in that way. Now, we are seeing a ton of jobs in the data center technician sector. And so we're starting, and you maybe have heard how many AI data centers people are put up. Obviously, there's a fight against it, and there's moral conversations to be had, but there are jobs there. Because they need so many people. And so we have been talking with them as potential places where they could get into the tech scene through the data centers. And so this is something that is not my background, but I've had to make it at least some sort of priority working in this world. And so we have been looking at partnering with Persevere. Are you guys familiar with Persevere? Okay.
I'm not.
Persevere has all my gratitude and thanks for everything that they've done. They were the first to go into corrections and teach computer programming in California. We don't do it the same way they do, and that's fine. But they are really, really good at finding jobs in the tech world, and they have had 10 years experience teaching. And so are you guys familiar with Honest Jobs?
Yeah.
Okay, so the person who was the senior director of Honest Jobs works for Persevere now. And so we have partnered with Persevere, and this is a portion of SimVentures that I don't have the manpower right now or the personnel to take on the way it should be managed. And so we're looking for partners. There's a couple of, in Colorado, we work with the Second Chance nonprofit that helps us. And so we've been trying to make those connections. I know that's
Thank you.
not an exact answer, but that's where we're at right now.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Does
So,
anyone have any last second questions for Seth? I don't want to keep you guys over by any means. Perfect. I can be honest, and I'm definitely kind of biased. I've made it clear and apparent my belief on STEM education, whether it's my work through the Education Development Center or the book that I will be in that Dr. Corbin discussed. I'm going to be putting into the chat the Bloomsbury Book of Prison Education for your ordering, or the follow-up one that will discuss specifically STEM issues, critical issues in prison settings. So you'll be able to see that. I know that Seth is going to continue his great work. And to be honest with him, I just absolutely begged him to come on here specifically to meet some of you guys and make some of these connections. And I know I'm constantly behind, but I have more connections. So I look forward to seeing Seth more around our different activities as we move on. Interestingly enough, to discuss this idea and the beginning and the continuing of pushing system impacted people, I will be appearing in Ardale, Michigan. I think that's what it's called. I think I pronounced it right. I'll figure it out when I hit the freeway sign, with Dr. Stephanie, who is on this call too. Dr. Stephanie, if you want to come off or turn on your camera, and Troy Cars, we discuss ideas with Stillman Resumes, which is an innovative employment programs track that allows us to show how this software is capable of building and polishing different students' resumes into something to help them achieve and win. Remember, there's a lot of efforts right now to get past the idea that there are AIs writing resumes that are being screened by AI robots, and in between all of this, good talent is being missed. And of course, just in case you're curious, and I'm sure that you are, Judith and Dr. Stan will be signing copies of Breaking Chains at that same event. I just want to thank all of you for coming to Unlock Higher Education. As always, our last meeting of the month will be held next month on the last Monday. I'm sure that we have something extremely amazing in wrap for you, and I just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you, guys.
thank you so much.
Thank you.